The bullet never reached him. It shattered against bulletproof glass 3 inches from his skull, spiderwebbing the window like fractured ice. Jae-Min Kang didn't move. Didn't flinch. He stood with his back to Seoul's glittering skyline, cufflinks catching the light as casually as if death hadn't just knocked on his door. The second shot followed. Then the third. Glass exploded inward, and that's when the lights went out. Not the city. Just the penthouse. Darkness swallowed everything whole. A scream cut through the black, short, wet, final. When the emergency lights flickered on, one man was already dead on the marble floor. Throat open cleanly. Surgically. And standing over him, barefoot in a torn black dress, dark hair pulled back with brutal efficiency, was a woman Jae-Min had never seen before. Blood dripped from her wrist to the floor. A knife glinted in her hand. She looked at him like she was deciding whether to save him or finish what they'd started. That was the moment Jae-Min Kang realized something deeply unsettling. He had no idea who she was, or why she'd been waiting in his penthouse with blood already on her hands. If you're drawn to dark, dangerous stories like this, subscribe to the Korean Dawn. This is where they live. Jae-Min's mind moved faster than his body. 5 intruders. Military training. Professional hit squad. 1 woman. Unknown variable. Lethal. The math didn't add up, and Jae-Min Kang had built an empire on numbers that always balanced. "You're standing in my way," one of the remaining attackers shouted at her, rifle swinging toward her chest. She didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on Jae-Min, cold and assessing, like she was running calculations of her own. The attacker's finger tightened on the trigger. She moved. Not away. Through. The rifle fired, bullets tearing through empty air where she'd been a heartbeat before. She closed the distance in 3 fluid steps, drove her knife upward beneath his vest, and dropped him before his brain registered the pain. 2 down. 3 left. Jae-Min reached for the gun in his desk drawer, but she was already moving again. The third man tried to flank her. She spun, caught his wrist mid-swing, and redirected his momentum into the floor-to-ceiling window. His skull cracked against reinforced glass. He crumpled. 3 down. The fourth man was smarter. He grabbed her from behind, arm locked around her throat, gun pressed to her temple. "Enough," he growled. She went still. Perfectly, unnaturally still. Jae-Min watched her chest rise once. Twice. Calculating. Then she drove her heel into the man's knee, bone snapped like kindling, and twisted out of his grip before he could scream. The knife flashed once more. He fell. 4 down. The fifth man didn't try to fight. He ran. She let him go. That choice told Jae-Min more than any interrogation could. She wasn't here to eliminate all witnesses. She was sending a message. Silence settled like smoke. The penthouse smelled of gunpowder and copper. Security would flood in any second. Questions would follow. Explanations would be demanded. But first, Jae-Min needed to understand what had just saved his life. "Who are you?" he asked, voice steady despite his elevated pulse. She wiped the blade on her thigh, slow and deliberate. "Does it matter? You're standing in my home, covered in blood, after killing 4 men in under 2 minutes. He stepped closer, glass crunching beneath his shoes. "Yes. It matters." Her jaw tightened. For a moment, he thought she might run too. Instead, she met his gaze. "My name is Yura." The name settled wrong in the air between them. Too smooth. Too prepared. Jae-Min smiled faintly. "That's a lie." Her expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. "Believe what you want," she said. "I will." He circled her slowly, keeping distance but closing angles. "Why were you here?" "Wrong place, wrong time." Another lie. He stopped in front of her. "You were waiting. You knew they were coming. She didn't deny it. The elevator chimed. Security burst through the doors, 12 men, weapons drawn, shouting orders that blurred together. Yura's hands went up instantly, knife clattering to the marble. But her eyes never left Jae-Min's face. You shouldn't trust them, she said quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. His head tilted. Why not? Because one of them was supposed to kill you tonight. The room froze. Every guard. Every weapon. Every breath. Jae-Min raised one hand. Silence fell like a blade. Stand down, he ordered. No one moved. Stand. Down. They lowered their weapons slowly, confusion rippling through the ranks. Jae-Min gestured to two guards he'd known for a decade. Take her to the east wing. Guest room. Post outside the door. Sir. Now. They moved, flanking Yura carefully. She didn't resist, but she didn't submit either. She walked between them like she'd been escorted 1,000 times before. As she passed Jae-Min, she leaned in, close enough that he caught the scent of blood and expensive perfume. They'll try again, she whispered. And next time, you won't see them coming. Then she was gone, disappearing into his fortress like a ghost who decided to haunt him on purpose. Jae-Min stood alone in his shattered penthouse, surrounded by bodies and broken glass, and realized something that made his chest tighten in a way he didn't recognize. He wasn't going to let her leave. Not until he knew why she'd saved him. And why she looked so afraid when she did. Jae-Min didn't sleep. He spent the next 4 hours in his study, watching security footage on repeat. The attack had been coordinated. Precise. The kind of operation that required inside information. Someone had given them his schedule. His security codes. The blind spots in his defense. Someone he trusted. But that wasn't what kept him watching the footage. It was her. Frame by frame, he studied the way she moved. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Every strike calculated for maximum efficiency. She fought like someone who'd done it too many times to count. Military training? Private security? Assassin? The list of possibilities narrowed to things that made his jaw tighten. At dawn, he went to see her. The east wing guard straightened when he approached. She hasn't tried to leave, sir. Hasn't asked for anything either. Jae-Min nodded. Wait outside. The guard hesitated. Protocol demanded someone remain, but Jae-Min's expression ended the debate. He entered alone. The room was dark except for city light filtering through tall windows. Yura stood at the glass, still in the torn dress, dried blood darkening the fabric. She didn't turn when he entered. You gave me a guest room, she said quietly. Not a cell. You saved my life. He closed the door behind him. That buys you conversation before consequences. How generous. I thought so. She turned finally, and in the dim light, he saw her more clearly. Mid-20s. Sharp features. Eyes that had seen things that left permanent marks. Beautiful in the way weapons were beautiful, elegant, and deadly. Are you here to interrogate me? She asked. I'm here to understand why you were in my penthouse before the attack began. I told you. Wrong place. Wrong time, he finished. I remember the lie. He moved to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Let's try honesty instead. Why would I be honest with you? Because you're trapped in a building I own, surrounded by men who answer only to me, in a city where my name means more than most laws. He held out 1 glass. Honesty might be your best weapon right now. She stared at the offering, then took it. Their fingers brushed. Hers were cold. They call you the Ice King, she said, studying the amber liquid. You don't make emotional decisions. You don't take unnecessary risks. You built an empire by knowing exactly when to strike and when to wait. You've done your research. I had to. She took a slow sip. They told me you'd be the hardest target I'd ever face. The admission landed like a thrown knife. Jae-Min's expression didn't change, but something cold slid down his spine. They sent you to kill me. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Then why am I alive? She turned back to the window. Because I didn't want to be what they made me anymore. The rawness in her voice caught him off guard. This wasn't the controlled killer from an hour ago. This was something underneath. Something human. Who are they? He pressed. People who erase problems for powerful men. People who clean up messes before they become scandals. She drank again. People who don't forgive when assets walk away. You're an asset. I was an asset. Her reflection in the glass looked haunted. Now I'm just a problem they need to erase. Jae-Min processed this, mind-running scenarios. If she was telling the truth, she'd betrayed an organization dangerous enough to send a hit squad after him. Which meant she was either incredibly brave or incredibly desperate. Possibly both. The fifth man, he said. You let him go. I wanted them to know I was here. That I chose you over them. Why would you do that? She finally faced him fully, and for the first time since she'd appeared in his penthouse, he saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of him. Fear of something worse. Because if they killed you first, she said, voice dropping to almost a whisper, they would have hunted me forever. But if I'm with you, if I prove I'm more valuable alive than dead, maybe they'll think twice. You're using me as a shield. I'm offering you the truth about who's trying to destroy you from the inside. She set down the glass. Fair trade, don't you think? Jae-Min steadied her. Every instinct he'd honed over 15 years screamed that she was dangerous. That keeping her close was a calculated risk that might cost him everything. But every instinct also recognized that she was the only lead he had to whoever had just tried to kill him. What's your real name? He asked. She hesitated. That same flicker of calculation he'd seen before. Sera, she said finally. Sera Shin. Another lie. He knew it instinctively. But this lie was closer to the truth. Sera Shin, he repeated. Why should I believe anything you've said? Because in 48 hours, they'll try again. And this time, they'll send someone you trust completely. She moved closer, close enough that he could see the dried blood on her hands. Check your inner circle, Mr. Kang. Check carefully. One of them has already sold you. You expect me to tear apart my organization based on the word of a woman who admits she was sent to kill me? No. Her voice was steel now. I expect you to watch them carefully when I tell you the name of the man who gave them your security codes. Jae-Min's pulse quickened. You know who betrayed me. I know everything they told me. Floor plans. Schedules. Weaknesses. She held his gaze. I know which guard takes bribes. Which accountant is embezzling. Which lieutenant is secretly working with the Yakuza. The room felt smaller suddenly. Colder. Tell me, he ordered. No. His eyes narrowed. No? Not until you promise me something. She stepped even closer, close enough that he could feel the heat of her despite the cold in her hands. You keep me alive. You keep me hidden. And when this is over, you let me disappear. You're negotiating. I'm surviving. Her jaw set. That's all I've ever done. Jae-Min weighed his options. Trust a killer who'd walked into his home with blood on her hands. Or ignore the only person who seemed to know why he was suddenly a target. The smart choice was obvious. The right choice was murky. Fine, he said. But you stay where I can see you. No locked doors. No privacy. And if I find out you're lying about any of this, you'll kill me, she finished. I know. You have a reputation for that too. He expected fear. Instead, he saw something almost like relief. Who is it? He asked. Who betrayed me? Sera Shin took a breath. and gave him a name that made his blood turn to ice. Min-Jun Lee. The name hung in the air like a death sentence. Jae-Min's right-hand man. His most trusted advisor. The man who'd stood beside him for 8 years through territory wars, federal investigations, and assassination attempts. The man he'd called brother. "You're lying," Jae-Min said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Sera moved to the small table, pulled out a chair, and sat like she had all the time in the world. "Ask yourself why they knew exactly when your security detail would rotate. Why they came during the 30-second window when your panic room protocols reset. Why they had your private elevator codes that only 3 people know." Jae-Min's hands curled into fists. Min-Jun would never. He's been selling information for 6 months. Her voice was clinical now. Professional. Small things at first. Meeting times. Business partners. Then bigger. Financial records. Safe house locations. He's how they've been staying 3 steps ahead of you all year. Jae-Min thought back. The failed shipments. The intercepted communications. The near miss in Tokyo that he chalked up to bad luck. Not luck. Betrayal. Why, he asked through gritted teeth. Debt. Gambling, specifically. He owes the wrong people 7 million won. They offered to clear it if he gave them access to you. And you know this how? Because I was the one they sent to verify his information before they greenlit the assassination. Sera leaned back. I spent 2 weeks watching your organization. Listening. Learning. Min-Jun Lee is a desperate man pretending he's loyal. Desperate men always break first. Jae-Min's mind raced. If this was true, if Min-Jun had truly betrayed him, then everything was compromised. His security. His operations. His entire inner circle. I need proof, he said. Check his offshore accounts. Cayman Islands, under his mother's maiden name. 3 payments in the last 4 months, each exactly 1 million won. Sera's eyes never wavered. Or you could just watch him. He checks his phone obsessively. He leaves meetings early. He's waiting for confirmation that you're dead. Jae-Min pulled out his phone, typed a message to his head of security. Run a complete background check on Min-Jun Lee. Financial records, communications, everything. Quietly. Tell no one. The response came in seconds. Understood, sir. He looked back at Sera. If you're wrong about this. I'm not. Then you've just destroyed my second-in-command's life. And if I'm right, I've saved yours. She stood. You have maybe 40 hours before they realize last night failed. They'll regroup. Send someone else. Someone closer. Why tell me all this? Why not just disappear? She moved toward the window again, silhouette dark against the dawn. Because I'm tired of running. Tired of being someone else's weapon. And because. She paused, something vulnerable crossing her features. Because for the first time in 10 years, I had a choice. I chose not to kill you. I want that choice to mean something. Jae-Min steadied her. The blood on her dress. The bruises forming on her wrists. The way she held herself like she expected violence at any moment. She was broken. Dangerous. Possibly insane. And she was his only chance at survival. You stay here, he said. In this wing. Guarded. No communication with anyone outside this building. I expected that. And you tell me everything you know. Every name. Every location. Every weakness in their organization. I will. Starting now. Sera turned to face him fully. In the growing light, she looked younger than he'd first thought. Younger and impossibly tired. There are 7 of them, she began. 7 people who run the organization that trained me. They have no official name. No headquarters. They move like ghosts through the criminal underworld, cleaning up messes for politicians, CEOs, crime lords. They charge millions per job. They never fail. Except with me. Except with you. A ghost of a smile. I'm their first failure in 12 years. They won't take it well. These 7, Jae-Min pressed. You know who they are? I know 3 by name. 2 by reputation. The other 2. She shook her head. They're shadows even to us. But the one who sent me, the one who trained me, his name is Kang Dae-young. Jae-Min froze. That's impossible. You know him? Kang Dae-young died 4 years ago. Car accident in Busan. Sera's expression darkened. That's what he wanted people to think. Easier to operate when you're officially dead. No one looks for ghosts. The implications spiraled. If Kang Dae-young was alive, if he was running an assassination network, if he'd been operating in the shadows for years. He's using my family name, Jae-Min said quietly. Not a coincidence. Sera moved closer. He knew exactly how to hurt you. Send someone to kill you during a time when your defenses were supposedly strongest. Make it public enough that your enemies smell blood. Then watch your empire crumble from the inside while everyone fights for scraps. But you didn't kill me. No. She was very close now. Close enough that he could see gold flecks in her dark eyes. I looked into those eyes and realized something. You're not like the men I've killed before. You're not corrupt. Not weak. You're just powerful, and they hate that. So you decided I was worth saving. I decided I was worth saving. Her voice dropped. And the only way to do that was to make sure you stayed alive long enough to help me destroy them. The honesty of it struck him. She wasn't pretending to be noble. Wasn't claiming altruism. She was using him just as much as he was using her. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to him in years. Then we have a deal, Jae-Min said. You help me root out every traitor in my organization. I keep you alive long enough to bring down the people who own you. Owned, she corrected. Past tense. Is it? The question hung between them. Sera's phone buzzed, the one his guards had returned after searching her. She glanced at it, and all color drained from her face. What? Jae-Min demanded. She turned the screen toward him. A single message, you made your choice. Now we make ours. Everyone you've ever cared about dies screaming. Starting tonight. Below the message, a photo. A young woman. Maybe 19. Bright smile. University uniform. Who is that? Jae-Min asked, though dread was already pooling in his stomach. Sera's hand trembled as she took the phone back. My sister. The only family I have left. Where is she? Somewhere safe. Somewhere they shouldn't be able to find her. But the fear in Sera's eyes said she didn't believe that anymore. Jae-Min made a decision that would change everything. Give me her location. My best security team will be there in 30 minutes. Why would you do that? Because if they hurt her, you'll break. And I need you unbroken. He held out his hand. Location. Now. Sera stared at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. Her skin was still cold. But her grip was iron strong. Jae-Min's security team moved like a surgical strike. 6 men. Unmarked vehicles. Armed but discreet. They reached the small apartment in Hongdae within 25 minutes, a personal record that would have impressed Jae-Min if his jaw wasn't clenched so tight it ached. He stood in his office, Sera beside him, both watching security feeds on multiple screens. She doesn't know about any of this, Sera said quietly. About me. About what I've done. She thinks I work in corporate security overseas. Will she resist my men? She'll be terrified. But she's smart. If they explain I sent them, she'll cooperate. Sera's fingers twisted together. She has too. One of the screens showed the apartment building. Quiet street. No suspicious vehicles. No obvious surveillance. Too quiet. Jae-Min reached for his radio. Team leader, report. Approaching target apartment now, sir. No hostile presence detected. Proceeding with extraction. On screen, 4 men entered the building. 2 stayed with the vehicles, eyes scanning constantly. Sera leaned forward, barely breathing. 30 seconds passed. 45. Team leader, status? Jae-Min's voice hardened. Static crackled. Then, sir, apartment is empty. No signs of forced entry, but personal belongings are gone. Drawers open, closet cleared. She left in a hurry. Sera's hand flew to her mouth. Expand search radius, Jae-Min ordered. Check neighbors. University. Anywhere she might have gone voluntarily. Copy that. But he already knew. They both did. Sera's phone buzzed again. Another photo. The girl from before, this time zip-tied to a chair in what looked like a basement. Eyes wide with fear but unharmed. A newspaper in her lap showing today's date. The message below, tick-tock. Sera made a sound, something between a sob and a growl. I'll kill them. I'll kill every single one of them. You won't. Jae-Min plucked the phone from her shaking hands. Because rage makes you sloppy, and sloppy gets her killed. She's innocent. She has nothing to do with this. They know that. That's why they took her. He set the phone down carefully. They want you emotional. Want you desperate enough to make mistakes. Then what do I do? Her voice cracked. Just wait while they hurt her? No. Jae-Min pulled up a different screen, facial recognition software scanning the photo's background. We use the fact that they want you to see her alive. Means they're still negotiating. Negotiating what? You. They want you back, and they're willing to trade. Sera shook her head violently. No. No, I won't. I didn't say we give you to them. His eyes never left the screens. I said they want to trade. That gives us leverage. The facial recognition pinged. Match found. Basement location, industrial district in Incheon. Abandoned factory scheduled for demolition next month. Perfect temporary holding site. Jae-Min pulled out his phone, started texting rapid orders. I'm sending 12 men. Armed. Trained for hostage extraction. They'll be expecting that. I know. That's why you and I are going in first. He looked at her. You know how they think. How they set up defensive positions. We go in quiet, create a distraction, my team extracts your sister during the chaos. That's insane. They'll kill us both. Maybe. He holstered a weapon at his spine. But you said you were tired of running. Here's your chance to fight instead. Sera stared at him, something shifting in her expression. Surprise. Respect. Maybe the beginning of trust. Why are you doing this? She asked. You barely know me. My sister means nothing to you. Jae-Min moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. Because you saved my life when you could have taken it. Because you're giving me information that might save my empire. And because... He paused, surprising himself with the admission forming. Because I despise men who hurt innocent people to prove power. It's cowardice dressed as strategy. You're a crime lord. I'm selective about my crimes. He handed her a weapon. Can you shoot? She took it, checked the chamber with practiced ease. I told you. They trained me for everything. Good. We leave in 10 minutes. He turned toward the door, then stopped. And Sera? When we get your sister back, and you're going to tell me everything. No more half-truths. No more carefully edited stories. Everything. Why? Because I'm about to risk 12 men's lives on your word. That means I own the truth now. His voice dropped, dangerous and soft. All of it. She didn't argue. 10 minutes later, they were in an unmarked car heading toward Incheon. Sera sat in the passenger seat, weapon in her lap, eyes fixed on the city blurring past. They'll know we're coming, she said. They'll expect a frontal assault. Overwhelming force. That's how people like me typically operate. But I didn't build what I built by being predictable. He took a sharp turn. We're going through the sewers. She actually laughed, short and surprised. The sewers. Industrial area was built in the 70s. The drainage system connects every building in a 3-block radius. They'll watch the streets, the roofs, the alleys. They won't watch underground. You've done this before. Different circumstances. Same principles. He glanced at her. You good in confined spaces? I'll manage. 20 minutes later, they stood at a maintenance entrance behind a convenience store. Jae-Min's contact, a city worker he'd kept on retainer for years, had the gate unlocked and waiting. Tunnel splits in 3 directions, the man said, holding out a map. Middle path leads directly under the factory. But you'll need these. He handed them respirators. Air quality is shit down there. Jae-Min passed one to Sera. My men will breach from street level in exactly 20 minutes. That's our window. And if we're not out by then they'll assume we're dead and proceed with extraction anyway. He fitted his respirator, checked his weapon one final time. Ready? Sera pulled on her respirator, eyes hard above the mask. Let's go get my sister. They descended into darkness. The tunnel was worse than he described. Narrow. Dripping. The smell of decay thick even through the respirator. They moved in single file, Jae-Min leading with a flashlight, Sera close behind. This is insane, she muttered. You've mentioned that. I mean it. We're crawling through literal shit to save someone they've probably already moved. They haven't moved her. How do you know? Because they want you to come. They're patient. They'll wait. He paused at a junction, checked the map. Middle tunnel. 50 meters. They pressed forward. Water sloshed around their ankles. Something scurried in the darkness ahead. Can I ask you something? Sera's voice was muffled by the respirator. Now? Better time than any. You have everything. Power. Money. Respect. Why risk it for someone like me? Jae-Min didn't answer immediately. They'd reached the ladder leading up, rusted metal disappearing into darkness above. My father built his empire by treating people like assets, he said finally. Use them up, throw them away, replace them. It worked. He died rich and feared. But he died alone. In a hospital room. With nurses paid to pretend they cared. Jae-Min tested the ladder's first rung. I decided early I wouldn't be that. Wouldn't build something so cold that even loyalty became transactional. Lot of people would call that weakness. Lot of people underestimate me because of it. He started climbing. That's how I stay ahead. They ascended in silence. At the top, a maintenance hatch led into the factory's basement level. Jae-Min pressed his ear against it, listening. Voices above. 2 men. Speaking casually. Guards, but not actively alert. He looked back at Sera, held up 2 fingers. She nodded. On 3. 1. 2. He threw the hatch open and moved. The first guard barely had time to reach for his weapon before Jae-Min's fist connected with his throat. The man dropped, gasping. Sera took the second guard, smooth, efficient, silent. Within 10 seconds, both men were unconscious and zip-tied in the corner. They stood in a maintenance room filled with old equipment. Concrete floor. Single door leading deeper into the building. Sera pulled off her respirator. My sister. Where would they keep her? Somewhere visible. Somewhere you'd be drawn to immediately. Jae-Min moved to the door, cracked it open. Empty hallway. Dim lights. They want the confrontation. They'll make it easy to find her. They moved through the factory like ghosts. Past rusted machinery. Through rooms filled with abandoned assembly lines. The building felt dead, the kind of dead that made you listen for sounds that shouldn't exist. Then they heard it. A woman sobbing. Sera froze, every muscle tensing. Wait, Jae-Min whispered, grabbing her arm. Could be a trap. That's my sister. Which is exactly why it might be a trap. He pulled her back. We do this smart. But Sera was already moving, weapon raised, instinct overriding training. Jae-Min cursed and followed. They burst into a large open space, probably the old manufacturing floor. In the center, under a single hanging bulb, sat a young woman tied to a chair. No guards. No obvious threats. Just her. Crying. Head down. Min-ji. Sera called out. The woman's head snapped up. Relief and terror warred on her features. Uni? What's happening? These men, they just... I know, it's okay, I'm here now. Sera, wait. Jae-Min scanned the shadows. Every instinct screaming. Something's wrong. But Sera was already running toward her sister. That's when the lights flared on, blindingly bright. And 15 men stepped from the shadows, weapons trained on Sera's back. A slow clap echoed through the space. A man emerged from the darkness. 50s. Expensive suit. Cold smile. Sera Shin, he said, voice cultured and calm. Or should I call you Asset 17? You've caused quite a bit of trouble. Sera spun, weapon sweeping across the threats, but there were too many angles. Too many guns. Jae-Min raised his hand slowly, but his eyes were calculating distances. Exit points. Vulnerabilities. The man stepped closer, hands in his pockets like they were having tea. Hello, niece, he said. We need to talk about your recent career change. Sera's gun hand trembled. Uncle Kang. And Jae-Min understood with sudden, terrible clarity, the man who trained her to kill was family. The word uncle hung in the air like a noose. Jae-Min's mind raced, pieces clicking into place. Kang Dae-young. The man supposedly dead. The man using his family name. The man who trained Sera since childhood. Her blood relative. You look surprised, Dae-young said, studying Jae-Min with clinical interest. Didn't she mention our relationship? How disappointing. I thought we'd moved past secrets, Sera. Don't call me that. Sera's weapon never wavered, even though 15 others were aimed at her. You lost the right to use my name. Your name? Dae-young chuckled. I gave you that name. After your parents died, so tragically, so young, I took you in. Raised you. Trained you to be extraordinary. You weaponized me. I gave you purpose. He gestured around them. Look at Min-ji. Sweet. Innocent. Studying art history at university. Completely ordinary. Is that what you wanted to become? Ordinary? Sera's sister was crying harder now, understanding dawning that this was worse than a simple kidnapping. Let her go, Sera said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She's not part of this. She became part of this the moment you betrayed us. Dae-young moved closer to Min-ji, rested a hand on her shoulder. She flinched. See, that's the problem with family, Sera. You can't just walk away. Blood binds. Blood obligates. Jae-Min watched the exchange, reading body language. Dae-young's men were positioned defensively, not offensively. They expected negotiation, not execution. That was something. What do you want? Jae-Min asked, drawing attention to himself. Dae-Young's eyes swiveled to him. Ah, yes. The Ice King. Jae-Min Kang. Congratulations on surviving my niece's assignment. I admit, I didn't expect that outcome. Your plan was always going to fail. Oh? Confident words from a man currently surrounded. Your plan failed the moment you assumed Sera was still your weapon. Jae-Min kept his hands visible, non-threatening. She's not. She made a choice. People like you, people who think loyalty can be conditioned into someone, you never understand the difference between obedience and choice. Philosophy from a crime lord. How refreshing. Dae-Young smiled. But you're wrong. Sera didn't choose you. She chose survival. There's a difference. Is there? Absolutely. Dae-Young crouched beside Min-ji, pulled out a knife. Min-ji whimpered. Let me demonstrate. Sera, come here. Now. Sera didn't move. Come. Here. The knife pressed against Min-ji's throat. Or I open her jugular and you watch her bleed out. Your choice. Jae-Min saw the moment Sera broke, not her spirit, but her options. She lowered her weapon. No, Jae-Min said quietly. She glanced at him. Confusion and desperation mingling. You told me you were tired of being a weapon, he continued. That you wanted your choices to mean something. Don't let him take that from you. He'll kill her. Maybe. Or maybe he'll realize that killing her means losing the only leverage he has over you. Jae-Min looked at Dae-Young. You're not here to murder anyone tonight. You're here to take back your asset. But dead assets have no value. Dae-Young's smile widened. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Yes, I want Sera back. She knows too much. She's seen too much. Letting her wander free is problematic. So make me an offer. I'm sorry? You're a businessman, Jae-Min said. Everything is transactional. Make me an offer for Sera's return. Sera's eyes widened. What are you? 20 million won, Jae-Min continued, ignoring her. In exchange, you return the sister unharmed, call off your people, and leave my territory. Sera comes with me. Everyone walks away. Dae-Young laughed. Full-throated and genuine. You think you can buy her? From me? I spent 15 years turning her into the perfect weapon. She's worth 10 times that. Then name your price. The laughter died. Dae-Young's expression went cold. There is no price. She's mine. She was always mine. The moment her parents died in that car accident? Sera's voice cut through like a blade. That's what you always called it. An accident. But it wasn't, was it? Silence fell. Tell her, Min-ji suddenly spoke up, voice trembling but clear. Tell her what you did to our parents. Dae-Young's hand tightened on the knife. Min-ji, darling, you don't understand. I found the files, Min-ji continued, tears streaming. Last year. When I was helping you move offices. Hidden in a false drawer. Police reports. Photos. Evidence that the brake lines were cut. That the accident was staged. Sera went very still. Dangerously still. You killed them, she whispered. I freed you, Dae-Young corrected. Your father, my brother, was weak. Wanted out of the family business. Threatened to expose everything to the police. I couldn't allow that. So I made a decision. Quick. Clean. Necessary. They were your family. And you're my family too. I gave you purpose. Made you strong. Everything you are, you owe to me. Sera raised her weapon again, but this time it was aimed directly at her uncle's head. I owe you nothing. Shoot me, and my men shoot you. Then they shoot your sister. Then they burn this entire factory down with everyone inside. Dae-young stood slowly. Or you lower your weapon, come quietly, and Min-ji goes free. Those are your options. Jae-min checked his watch. 30 seconds until his team breached. He needed to buy time. There's a third option, he said. Oh? You let both women go. You and I have a conversation about how someone like you has been operating in my city without my knowledge or permission. That's a serious breach of protocol. Your city? Dae-young's eyebrows rose. You don't control Seoul. You control a few districts. A few businesses. I operate globally. Then you won't mind a small territorial fee for past operations. Jae-min's voice hardened. 50 million won. Consider it back rent. You're insane. No. I'm territorial. And you've been operating in my territory without permission. That requires compensation. Dae-young studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed again. I see why Sera was drawn to you. You're just arrogant enough to be interesting. But here's what's actually going to happen. The ceiling exploded. Not literally. But close. Jae-min's team rappelled through skylights on all sides, 12 men dropping in perfect synchronization, weapons raised, orders shouted in sharp Korean. Dae-young's men swiveled, confusion breaking formation. In that half-second of chaos, Jae-min moved. He crossed the distance to Min-ji, severed her bonds with a concealed knife, and pulled her behind an overturned machine part. Sera used the distraction to close on her uncle, weapon pressed to his temple. Call them off, she ordered. Now. Dae-young raised his hand slowly, but he was smiling. Still smiling. You're making a mistake, Sera. The only mistake I made was not pulling this trigger 15 years ago. Then do it. His eyes locked on hers. Pull the trigger. Prove you're more than what I made you. Her finger tightened. Jae-min saw it happening in slow motion, saw the moment her training warred with her humanity. Sera, he called out. Don't. He killed my parents. I know. But if you kill him here, now, like this, you prove him right. That you're still just a weapon he programmed. I'm not. Then prove it. Jae-min moved closer, hands visible. Let my people take him. Let the law handle this. Choose to be more than what he made you. The room held its breath. 15 weapons. 12 men. 2 women. 1 monster. And a choice that would define everything that came next. Sera's hand trembled. Then lowered. Take him, she said quietly. Get him out of my sight before I change my mind. Jae-min's men moved in, securing Dae-young with practiced efficiency. The man didn't resist, but his eyes never left Sera's face. This isn't over, he said as they dragged him away. You'll always be mine, Sera. I'm in your blood. In your training. In every choice you make. You can't escape me. Watch me, she replied. Then he was gone, hauled into darkness, and the factory fell silent except for Min-ji's sobbing. Sera dropped to her knees beside her sister, pulled her close. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this. I know, Min-ji whispered. I know. Jae-min turned away, giving them privacy. His team leader approached. Sir, building is secure. What do you want us to do with the prisoner? Take him to the facility in Gangnam. The one without windows. No one sees him. No one speaks to him. And absolutely no communication with the outside world. Understood. As his men filed out, Jae-min found himself watching Sera hold her sister. The way her shoulders shook. The way she whispered apologies like prayers. She'd just faced down the man who'd murdered her parents and shaped her into a killer. And she'd chosen mercy. That took strength he'd rarely seen in anyone. When she finally stood, guiding her sister toward the exit, she paused beside him. Thank you, she said simply. Don't thank me yet. This was just the opening move. I know. She looked exhausted. Hollowed out. But for tonight, we won. That's enough. Ming-Ji leaned against her sister, and Sera wrapped an arm around her protectively. We need to get her somewhere safe, Sera said. Somewhere your uncle's organization can't reach. Already arranged. I have a property in Jeju Island. Private. Secure. She can stay there as long as needed. She can't just disappear. She has university, which she can return to once we've dismantled your uncle's network and ensured her safety. Jae-Min met Sera's eyes. She stays hidden until this is over. Non-negotiable. Sera wanted to argue. He could see it. But exhaustion won. Fine. They left the factory as dawn broke over Incheon. The city was waking up, unaware that blood and betrayal had been traded in the shadows just hours before. In the car, Ming-Ji finally spoke. You're the one Uni was sent to kill, aren't you? Jae-Min glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Yes. And now you're protecting both of us. Yes. Why? Good question. One he wasn't entirely sure he had a complete answer to. Because your sister made a difficult choice, he said finally. And I respect difficult choices. Ming-Ji leaned her head on Sera's shoulder. He's better than your last boyfriend. Sera actually laughed, broken and surprised. We're not, this isn't. I know. But still. Ming-Ji closed her eyes. Better. As the city blurred past, Jae-Min felt the weight of what they'd just started. Dae-Young's network was vast. Powerful. Connected to people even Jae-Min couldn't touch directly. This war had just begun. And somewhere in his facility, a monster sat in the dark, smiling because he knew something they didn't yet. The real game hadn't started. This was just the prologue. If you're still with us after this revelation, if you're feeling what they're feeling, that mix of relief and dread, subscribe to the Korean Dawn. Stories like this don't end clean. They end honest. And you'll want to see how this one unfolds. Ming-Ji was on a plane to Jeju Island within 6 hours, escorted by 2 of Jae-Min's most trusted guards, women who looked like corporate assistants but moved like soldiers. Sera watched the plane take off from a private terminal, arms wrapped around herself despite the warm afternoon sun. She'll be safe there, Jae-Min said beside her. You don't know that. I do. That property is registered under a shell company 3 layers deep. Even if your uncle had unlimited resources, he wouldn't find it for weeks. And we won't need weeks. Sera turned to him. What makes you so sure? Because while you were saying goodbye to your sister, I was making calls. He guided her toward his car. I've activated every contact I have in law enforcement, criminal networks, and intelligence agencies. By tomorrow, the entire underworld will know Kang Dae-Young is my prisoner. Every enemy he's ever made will start circling. That's dangerous. You're painting a target on your back. The target's already there. Now I'm just making sure everyone else knows about it. He opened the door for her. We go on offense or we die on defense. There's no middle ground with people like your uncle. They drove back into Seoul, the city alive with afternoon chaos. Sera stared out the window, watching normal people living normal lives. I killed my first person when I was 17, she said suddenly. Jae-Min glanced at her but said nothing. Uncle Kang said it was necessary. Said the man had betrayed us. I didn't ask questions. I just did what I was trained to do. Her voice was flat. Clinical. I threw up afterward. Cried for 3 days. He called it weakness. Said I'd get over it. Did you? I got better at hiding it. She finally looked at him. But every face stays with me. Every name I learned. Every person I erased because someone paid for their silence. How many? 17. The number came out like a confession. Over 8 years. 17 people who died because I was good at following orders. Jae-Min pulled the car over, sudden enough that she startled. Why are you? He turned to face her fully. Listen to me very carefully. What you did under duress. Under manipulation. You were groomed from childhood by a man who murdered your parents and isolated you. Every action you took was survival. That doesn't erase what I did. No. It doesn't. But it explains it. His voice softened. You're not a monster, Sera. You're someone who did monstrous things to stay alive. There's a difference. Is there? To the families of those 17 people? Maybe not. But there is to me. And there should be to you. He reached across, took her hand. Her skin was cold again. Always cold. You're choosing differently now. That's what matters. She pulled her hand away. You're too forgiving. I'm pragmatic. I've done things that keep me awake at night too. We all have, in this world. The question isn't what you've done. It's what you'll do next. They sat in silence for a moment, traffic flowing past, the city indifferent to their conversation. I need to see him, Sera said finally. Your uncle? Yes. Why? Because I need to look him in the eye and tell him I'm done. That he doesn't own me anymore. That, her voice caught. That I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stop him sooner. Jae-Min steadied her. You know that won't give you closure. Maybe not. But I need to try. He considered it. Every strategic bone in his body said it was a bad idea. Emotional confrontations with prisoners led to leverage shifts. Power imbalances. Mistakes. But he also understood the need to face your demons before they haunted you forever. Tomorrow, he said. After you've slept. Eaten. Had time to think clearly. I won't change my mind. I know. But you'll be stronger when you do it. They returned to his tower, 30 floors of steel and glass overlooking the Han River. His penthouse took up the top 3 floors, renovated and secured after the assassination attempt. Sera moved through it like a ghost, taking in the expensive art, the minimalist furniture, the floor-to-ceiling windows that made her feel exposed despite being hundreds of feet in the air. This is where you live? She asked. When I'm not living in secure facilities scattered across the city. He poured them both whiskey. You can stay in the guest wing. It's isolated from the main living area. Private entrance. You'll have space. I'm still your prisoner. You're my protected asset. He handed her a glass. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. He clinked his glass against hers. Prisoners don't get 20-year-old scotch. She almost smiled. Almost. They drank in silence, watching the city lights begin to flicker on as dusk approached. Can I ask you something? Sera said. You've been asking me things all day. Personal this time. He gestured for her to continue. You said your father died alone. No family at his bedside. No one who genuinely cared. She turned to face him. Do you worry you'll end up the same way? The question struck deeper than he expected. Every day, he admitted. I've built an empire. Made more money than I could spend in 5 lifetimes. But I've also kept everyone at arm's length. Told myself it was strategy. Protection. That caring about people makes you weak. And now? Now I'm wondering if I've been lying to myself. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. Because the moment you told me about your sister, I didn't calculate costs. I didn't weigh pros and cons. I just acted. Tried to save her because it was the right thing to do. That scared you. Terrified me. He met her eyes. Because if I start making decisions based on what's right instead of what's profitable, everything changes. The entire foundation I've built becomes unstable. Sera moved closer. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe. He set down his glass. Or maybe it gets us both killed. You know what I think? Tell me. I think you're not as cold as you pretend to be. I think the Ice King is just a story you tell so people won't see how much you actually care. Careful. His voice dropped. You're starting to sound like you know me. Maybe I do. She set her glass down too. Maybe we recognize each other because we're both wearing masks. Pretending to be the thing that keeps us safe instead of the thing we actually are. They stood very close now. Close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. Close enough that he could smell her, blood and gunpowder long since washed away, replaced by soap and something softer. And what am I, Sera Shin? Underneath the mask? She reached up, traced a finger along his jaw. Her touch was feather-light. Someone who's afraid of being human, she whispered. Because human means vulnerable. And vulnerable means you might lose everything you've built. You're doing it again. What? Seeing too much. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. The moment stretched, tension building like a drawn bowstring. Then his phone buzzed. They both stepped back, the spell breaking. Jae-Min checked the message. His expression hardened. What? Sera asked. Min Jun. My head of security just sent his preliminary report. He turned the phone so she could see. Everything you said was true. Offshore accounts. Communication with known criminals. He's been selling information for 6 months. I told you. Telling me and proving it are different things. He typed a response. I'm having him brought in tomorrow. Quietly. I want him to think everything is normal until he's standing in front of me. And then? Then I find out exactly how much damage he's done. Who else he's working with. How deep the rot goes. His jaw clenched. And then I make an example. The violence in his voice wasn't hot. It was ice cold. Calculated. This was the Jae-Min Kang the underworld feared. You should rest, he said, voice returning to normal. Tomorrow will be difficult. Sera nodded, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline from the past 24 hours was finally crashing. He showed her to the guest wing, a space that was somehow both luxurious and sterile. Everything white and chrome and untouched. The door locks from the inside, he said. No one will disturb you. But if you need anything, there's a phone on the nightstand. Direct line to me. Why would I need to call you? He paused in the doorway. Nightmares. Panic attacks. The aftermath of trauma shows up in unexpected ways. I want you to know you're not alone in this. Something in her chest tightened. You're being very kind to someone who walked into your life to kill you. You didn't kill me. That's what matters. He started to leave, then stopped. Sera? Thank you. For what? For choosing differently. For trusting me with your sister. For. He trailed off, seeming to reconsider his words. For being brave enough to stop running. Then he was gone, door closing softly behind him. Sera stood in the pristine room, looked at the massive bed, the attached bathroom with its rainfall shower, the wall of windows showing soul spread out like diamonds on velvet. She should shower. Change into the clothes someone had laid out for her. Sleep. Instead, she walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Somewhere out there, her sister was safe. Somewhere in this building, the man who'd murdered her parents sat in a cell. And somewhere in the rooms above or below, Jae-Min Kang was probably not sleeping either, mind working through strategies and scenarios. She'd upended his entire world in less than 48 hours. And somehow, impossibly, he'd responded by protecting her. By seeing her as more than the weapon she'd been trained to be. By looking at her like she was human. Sera closed her eyes. For the first time in 8 years, she felt something she thought was long dead. Hope. Maybe. Just maybe. There was a way out of this darkness that didn't end with her death. But first, they had to survive what was coming. And what was coming would test everything they'd started to build. Morning came with cold rain and colder news. Min Jun Lee arrived at the tower at 9 a.m., summoned for what he thought was a routine security briefing. He came alone, confident, wearing the same easy smile that had earned Jae-Min's trust 8 years ago. He didn't notice the extra guards. Didn't notice the security protocols had changed. Didn't notice until he was sitting in Jae-Min's office, door locked behind him, that something was very, very wrong. Jae-Min sat behind his desk, perfectly still. Sera stood by the window, arms crossed, watching. "Boss," Min Jun said, smile faltering. "What's this about? Tell me about your trip to Cayman Islands last April." The color drained from Min Jun's face. I don't know what you're. Don't." Jae-Min's voice was sharp. "Don't insult my intelligence by lying. I have bank records. Transaction histories. Communications. I know everything, Min Jun. The only question is whether you die quickly or slowly." Min Jun looked to Sera, recognition dawning. You're the one who was supposed to kill him?" Sera finished. "Yes. Except I changed my mind. And then I told him everything you've been doing. I don't know what she's told you, but she's lying. She's a trained assassin, she'll say anything to." Jae-Min slammed a folder on the desk. "These are your offshore accounts. This is communication between you and a number traced back to Kang Dae-young's network. These are logs showing you accessed secure files you had no clearance for. This is a recording of you on the phone discussing my schedule with an unknown party." He spread the evidence like cards. Undeniable. Damning. "You sold me, Min Jun, sold my people. For 7 million won and the promise your gambling debts would disappear." Min Jun's shoulders sagged. The fight went out of him all at once. "They threatened my family," he said quietly. "My wife. My daughter. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd..." His voice broke. "I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." Jae-Min stood, moved around the desk. "You chose to betray me instead of coming to me for help. That's the choice that ends you. Please." Min Jun's eyes filled with tears. "Please, I'll do anything. I'll testify. I'll give you names. You'll tell me everything you know about Dae-young's organization. Structure. Personnel. Operations. Weaknesses." Jae-Min crouched in front of him. "And then I'll decide if your information is worth your life." "What about my family?" "Already in protective custody. They've been safe for 3 hours. You just didn't know it because you were too busy planning how to spin this conversation." Min Jun slumped. You knew. You knew before I even walked in. I've known for 18 hours. I just wanted to see if you'd confess." Jae-Min stood. "You didn't. That tells me everything about your character." He gestured to Sera. "She's going to ask you questions. You're going to answer truthfully. Every lie adds a year to how long you stay in the hole. Every truth might buy you a chance at survival. Understand?" Min Jun nodded miserably. For the next 3 hours, Sera interrogated him with surgical precision. She knew exactly what questions to ask. Exactly where to press. She'd been on the other side of this equation too many times. By noon, they had names. Locations. Communication protocols. The structure of Dae-young's network laid bare. 12 operatives. 7 controllers. 3 safe houses in Seoul alone. And one critical piece of information that made Jae-Min's blood run cold. "The contract on your life wasn't the only one," Min Jun said. "They took out contracts on 3 other people. High-value targets across Asia. All hits scheduled for the same night." "Who?" Sera demanded. Min-jun looked at Jae-min. Your allies. The ones you've been building partnerships with. They wanted to destabilize the entire network. Kill the heads, watch the organizations collapse into chaos. Jae-min moved to his phone. Names. Now. Tanaka in Tokyo. Reyes in Hong Kong. And Min-jun swallowed. And Park Ji-won in Busan. Jae-min froze. Sera noticed. Who's Park Ji-won? My sister, Jae-min said quietly. The room went silent. Your sister? Sera's voice was sharp. You have a sister and you didn't mention. She left the family years ago. Went legitimate. Runs a shipping company in Busan. She has nothing to do with my operations. His hands clenched into fists. She's innocent. Not to them, Min-jun said. To them, she's leverage. They hit her, they hurt you. Simple math. Jae-min was already dialing. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. Then voicemail. He tried again. Same result. When, he demanded, voice like broken glass. When is the hit scheduled? Tonight. Midnight. All 3 targets. Jae-min checked his watch. 12:37 p.m. 11 hours. He made 3 calls in rapid succession. Tokyo. Hong Kong. Busan. Tokyo and Hong Kong confirmed their principals were secure, already protected after getting wind of suspicious activity. Busan didn't answer. I need to go to her, Jae-min said, already moving toward the door. Wait. Sera grabbed his arm. That's exactly what they want. You leave Seoul, you're vulnerable. Your territory's vulnerable. They hit your sister and you simultaneously. I don't care. She's my sister. And she's alive because they haven't hit yet. But if you go rushing in blind, you risk both your lives. Jae-min turned on her, and for a moment, she saw real fury in his eyes. What would you have me do? Sit here while my sister dies? No. I'd have you send someone who knows how these operations work. Someone who's run them before. Sera met his gaze steadily. Send me. You. I know their tactics. Know how they think. I can get to her, protect her, and extract her before they even know I'm there. Or you could be walking into a trap. It's not a trap if I'm expecting it. She glanced at Min-jun. He gave us their Busan safe house location. Gave us the names of the operatives assigned to your sister. I have everything I need. Jae-min wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed not to trust this. Not to let Sera walk back into the world of her former employers. But she was right. She knew their methods. Their patterns. And Ji-won was running out of time. You don't go alone, he said finally. Take 6 of my best. Armed. Coordinated. 2, Sera countered. More than that and we're too visible. They'll smell the operation. 4. 2. Non-negotiable. They stared at each other. Wills colliding. Fine, Jae-min said through gritted teeth. 2. But you call me every 30 minutes. Miss one check-in and I'm coming down there myself. Deal. She turned to leave. Sera. She looked back. Bring her back alive, he said. Please. The please broke something in her expression. Made it softer. I will, she promised. Then she was gone, moving fast, already mentally planning the operation. Jae-min watched her go, feeling something he'd only felt once before, the night his father died and left him alone in a world full of enemies. Helplessness. He looked at Min-jun, still slumped in his chair, broken and afraid. You're going to give me every piece of information you have, Jae-min said coldly. Every name. Every secret. Every lie you've told. And if my sister dies because you didn't tell me something. He let the threat hang. Min Jun understood perfectly. He started talking. Sera and two of Jae-Min's men, both ex-military, both silent and efficient, were on a helicopter to Busan within 30 minutes. The flight took an hour. She spent it reviewing everything Min Jun had told them. 3 operatives assigned to Park Ji-won. Standard surveillance to elimination protocol. They'd been watching her for 2 weeks, learning her patterns. That gave Sera an advantage. They'd be comfortable. Maybe even complacent. Complacency was a weapon she could use. They landed at a private helipad outside the city. A car was waiting, black, nondescript, untraceable. Your call, ma'am, one of the men said. His name was Kang-dae. Not the same Kang. Different family entirely. We hit the safe house first, Sera said, studying a map on her phone. Take out their command center before they even know we're in the city. Then we extract the target. What if they've already moved on her? Then we adapt. But intel says midnight. We have time. They drove into Busan as the sun began its descent. The city was alive with port traffic, tourists, the smell of the ocean mixing with exhaust. The safe house was in a quieter district. Old building. Multiple exits. Perfect for people who needed to disappear quickly. Sera had them parked 3 blocks away. They approached on foot, blending into evening crowds. At the building's edge, she signaled a stop. How many? Kang-dae asked. She closed her eyes, remembering her own time in safe houses. Standard protocols. 2 inside. 1 on overwatch somewhere with a line of sight to the entrance. Maybe rooftop across the street. They split up. Kang-dae and his partner circled to find the overwatch. Sera waited, counting breaths, listening to the city. Her phone buzzed. Text from Kang-dae, overwatch located. Rooftop. Southeast building. Waiting on your signal. She typed back, on 3. Simultaneous entry. 1, 2, 3. She moved through the safe house door, unlocked, as she'd expected, with fluid precision. The first operative was in the kitchen, back turned, making coffee. He never finished the cup. She dropped him silently, cable tie securing his wrists before he fully processed what happened. The second operative heard something. Came to investigate. She met him in the hallway. He reached for his weapon. She was faster. 30 seconds later, both men were secured, unconscious, tucked into a bathroom. Kang-dae's voice crackled through her earpiece, overwatch neutralized. Building secure. Copy. Searching for intel now. She found their operation board in the main room. Photos of Park Ji-won. Schedules. Routes. A timeline leading to midnight. And something that made her stomach drop. A photo of Jae-Min, taken yesterday. Outside his tower. They weren't just targeting his sister. They were watching him too. She photographed everything, sent it to Jae-Min with a text, safe house secure. But there's more. Check your surroundings. His response was immediate, are you safe? Yes. Moving to extract your sister now. Stand by. Park Ji-won lived in a modest apartment overlooking the harbor. Not the kind of place you'd expect a crime lord's sister to live. But that was probably the point. Sera and her team approached carefully. The building had standard security. Nothing they couldn't bypass. But something felt wrong. The door to Ji-won's apartment was slightly ajar. Sera raised a hand, stopping her team. She pointed at the door. They nodded, understanding. Weapons drawn, they entered. The apartment was dark. Too dark. Then lights flooded on, blinding. A woman's voice called out, if you're here to kill me, you're going to be disappointed. Sera's eyes adjusted. Park Ji-won stood in the center of her living room, holding a shotgun with impressive confidence. Mid-30s. Sharp features similar to Jae-Min's. Eyes that missed nothing. Your brother sent me, Sera said, hands visible. Prove it. He said you left the family when you were 23. Started a shipping company with your inheritance. Told him you wanted nothing to do with the world that killed your father. Ji-won's grip on the shotgun relaxed slightly. He told you that? He's terrified for you. There's a hit scheduled for midnight. We're here to extract you. I know about the hit. Why do you think I'm awake with a loaded shotgun? Ji-won lowered the weapon. I got a warning 3 hours ago from a contact in Tokyo. Been preparing since. Sera stepped closer. You need to come with us. Now. They have 3 operatives, had 3 operatives. We neutralized them. But they'll send more. Ji-won steadied her. You're the one who was supposed to kill my brother. Not a question. A statement. News travels fast, Sera said. In our world? Always. Ji-won set the shotgun down. Why should I trust you? Because I'm standing here instead of completing the job I was paid to do. Because your brother is risking everything to keep you safe. And because... Sera hesitated. Because I know what it's like to have family you'd die to protect. Ji-won's expression softened. He talked about you. On the phone earlier. Said you were complicated. That's diplomatic. He said you saved his life. That you were brave. Ji-won grabbed a pre-packed bag from the couch. That's all I needed to hear. Let's go. They exited the building quickly. The helicopter was waiting. As they lifted off, Busan's light spreading below them, Ji-won sat across from Sera. Thank you, she said simply. Don't thank me yet. We still have to get you somewhere safe. My brother's tower? Safest place in Seoul right now. He's locked it down tighter than a fortress. Ji-won nodded, then looked out the window. I left this life years ago. Thought I could escape it. Build something clean. Something that didn't smell like blood. Did you? For a while. Then I realized you can't ever really leave. Not when your last name is Kang. Not when your brother is who he is. She turned back to Sera. But you left, didn't you? They trained you and you walked away. I'm still walking, Sera said. Not sure I'm away yet. At least you're walking. Ji-won smiled faintly. That's more than most of us can say. The helicopter ride back felt longer than the one down. Sera checked in with Jae-Min twice. Both times, his voice was tight with barely controlled tension. When they finally landed on the tower's helipad, he was waiting. Ji-won stepped out first. Brother and sister stared at each other for a long moment. Then Ji-won punched him in the arm. Hard. You sent an assassin to protect me. Are you insane? Former assassin, Jae-Min corrected, rubbing his arm. And apparently insane. Yes. They hugged, quick, fierce. Family love expressed in violence and relief. When they pulled apart, Jae-Min looked at Sera. Thank you. She's tough. Pulled a shotgun on us. I taught her that, Jae-Min said with something almost like pride. They went inside. Hot tea. Debriefing. Ji-won demanding answers about everything that had happened in the last 2 days. Jae-Min told her most of it. Sera filled in the pieces he left out. By the time they finished, it was nearly midnight. The time the hit was supposed to happen. Instead, Ji-won was safe. The operatives were neutralized. And Jae-Min's empire was still standing. So what now? Ji-won asked. We sit here and wait for them to try again? No, Jae-Min said. Now we dismantle them piece by piece. We use everything Min-jun gave us. Every name, every location, every weakness. You're going to war. I've been at war since the moment they sent someone to kill me. I just didn't know it. He looked at Sera. Now I know who the enemy is. And I don't lose wars. Ji-won studied her brother, then glanced at Sera. He's different with you here. Calmer. Focused. Desperation does that, Sera said. No. Ji-won shook her head. This isn't desperation. This is something else. The way she said it made Sera uncomfortable. Made her aware of how close she and Jae-Min had been standing. How naturally they'd fallen into working together. I should rest, Sera said, standing. Long day. Get some sleep, Jae-Min agreed. Tomorrow we start taking apart your uncle's network. As Sera headed to her room, she heard Ji-won's voice. You like her. I respect her. That's what you call it? Ji-won. I'm just saying. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her. She's an asset. She's a person. And unless I'm completely wrong, she's a person you're starting to care about. Sera didn't wait to hear Jae-Min's response. She closed her door, leaned against it, and tried to ignore the way her heart was racing. This was getting complicated. They were supposed to be allies of necessity. Nothing more. But somewhere between saving each other's lives and facing down monsters together, lines had blurred. And Sera had no idea what to do about that. 3 days passed in a blur of strategy and surveillance. Jae-Min's people moved against Dae-yoon's network with surgical precision. Safe houses raided. Operatives arrested. Financial accounts frozen. They were winning. Slowly. But winning. And through it all, Sera and Jae-Min worked side by side. Late nights in his study, poring over files. Early mornings coordinating teams. Meals grabbed between operations, conversation flowing easier than it should between two people who barely knew each other. Ji-won watched them with knowing eyes but said nothing more. Until the 4th night. Sera found her on the penthouse balcony, city lights glittering below, glass of wine in hand. Can't sleep either? Ji-won asked. Something like that. Sera leaned against the railing. Your brother is relentless. He learned it from our father. Work until you collapse. Then work more. Ji-won sipped her wine. But he's different now. Less cold. More human. Combat does that. Makes you reassess priorities. Or maybe you do that. Sera turned to face her. I'm not trying to change him. I know. That's what makes it interesting. Ji-won's smile was gentle. He spent his entire adult life building walls. Keeping people at exactly the right distance. Close enough to be useful, far enough to never hurt him. Sounds lonely. It is. I've watched him become more isolated every year. More powerful and more alone. She set down her glass. Then you crashed into his life, and suddenly he's making decisions based on emotion. Protecting strangers. Risking operations to save people. He would have done that anyway. No. He wouldn't. Ji-won's voice was certain. A month ago, if someone had told him there was a hit on me, he would have sent his best team and stayed in Seoul managing his empire. He wouldn't have paced his office for 3 hours. Wouldn't have called you every 30 minutes. Wouldn't have looked like his world was ending until you brought me back safe. The words settled heavy between them. I don't know what you want me to say, Sera admitted. I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to see what's happening. Ji-won moved closer. My brother is falling for you. Maybe he doesn't realize it yet. Maybe you don't either. But I see it. And I need to know, are you going to break his heart? I'm not trying to. That's not what I asked. Ji-won's eyes were kind but unyielding. When this is over, when your uncle is dealt with and the threat is gone, what happens? You disappear? Go back to running? Leave him behind? Sera opened her mouth. Closed it. She hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know, she said honestly. Then figure it out. Because he deserves better than someone who's going to ghost him the moment it's convenient. Ji-won picked up her wine glass. He's been abandoned by enough people already. She left Sera alone on the balcony, words echoing in the night air. Sera stood there for a long time, trying to untangle her feelings. She respected Jae-min, admired his strength, his integrity, the way he'd protected her sister without hesitation. But was it more than that? The way her pulse jumped when he entered a room. The way she found herself looking for excuses to stay near him. The way his rare smiles made something warm bloom in her chest. Was that attraction? Or just two people clinging to each other in the middle of chaos? She didn't know. And that terrified her more than any assassin ever had. Inside, Jae-min sat in his study, pretending to read reports but actually replaying the last 4 days in his mind. The way Sera moved through his space like she belonged there. The way she challenged him without fear. The way she'd looked at him when she promised to bring Ji-won back alive, like his pain mattered to her. He'd spent 15 years building an empire on the principle that emotion was weakness. That caring made you vulnerable. But Sera had crashed through every defense he'd built, and he hadn't even noticed until it was too late. Now, working beside her felt natural. Easy. Right in a way nothing had ever felt right before. And that was dangerous. Because eventually, this would end. The threat would be neutralized. Her uncle would be dealt with. And Sera would leave. She'd said it herself, she wanted to disappear. Start over somewhere quiet. There was no room in that dream for a crime lord with enemies on 3 continents. The smart move was to maintain distance. Keep this professional. Protect his heart before it got broken. But every instinct he'd honed over 15 years told him he was already too late. He was already falling. The question was whether he'd let himself admit it before she was gone. The 5th day, Sera asked to see her uncle. Jae-min wanted to refuse. Every strategic bone in his body said it was a mistake. But he understood the need for closure. They went to the facility in Gangnam together. Underground. Soundproofed. The kind of place people went into but didn't come out of. Dae-young sat in a gray room, hands cuffed to a table bolted to the floor. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. But his eyes were still sharp when they entered. Sera, he said, voice warm like they were meeting for tea. You look well. Captivity agrees with you. I'm not captive, she said, taking the chair across from him. I'm protected. Ah, yes. Protected by the man you were sent to kill. How romantic. His gaze slid to Jae-min. You must be so proud. You turned my greatest weapon against me. She was never yours, Jae-min said coldly. You just convinced her she was. Semantics. Dae-young leaned back as much as his restraints allowed. So, niece. Have you come to gloat? To tell me how you've destroyed everything I built? No. Sera's voice was steady. I came to say goodbye. That made him pause. Goodbye? I'm done, uncle. Done hating you. Done letting you live in my head rent-free. Done being the broken thing you created. She met his eyes. I'm choosing to let you go. You can't just let go. I'm your family. Your blood. I made you everything you are. You made me a killer. That's all. The rest, the parts of me that matter, those I built despite you. Dae-young's expression hardened. You're naive. You think you can just walk away? Build a life? They'll never let you. You know too much. You've seen too much. Maybe. But I'd rather die trying to be free than live as your puppet. Freedom is an illusion, Sera. We're all puppets. You've just traded one master for another. He nodded toward Jae-min. How long until he sees you as a liability? How long until he puts you down like a rabid dog? He won't, Sera said with conviction she didn't know she had. So certain. Tell me, have you slept with him yet? Or are you still pretending this is just business? Sera's hand clenched, but her voice stayed level. What happens between me and Jae-Min is none of your concern. Oh, but it is. Because I know how this story ends. You'll fall for him. Or maybe you already have. And when it inevitably falls apart, because relationships built on trauma always do, you'll come crawling back. Broken. Desperate. Mine again. That's never going to happen. We'll see. Jae-Min stepped forward. Enough. She came to say goodbye. You don't get to poison that. Dae-Young laughed. Protective. I like that. But tell me, Kang, what's your endgame here? You keep her close, you make yourself a target for every organization that wants her dead. You let her go, you lose the only person who truly understands the threat you're facing. Either way, you lose. Maybe, Jae-Min admitted. But I'd rather lose with my humanity intact than win by becoming you. That struck home. Dae-Young's smile faltered. Sera stood. We're done here. Wait. Dae-Young's voice had changed. Less confident. Sera, please. You're all I have left. Everything else is gone. Frozen accounts. Scattered operatives. My network is destroyed. Don't leave me with nothing. You left yourself with nothing the moment you killed my parents. They were going to betray the family. I had no choice. You always have a choice. You just choose power over people. Every single time. She moved toward the door, then paused. I hope you live a very long life, Uncle. Long enough to understand what you've lost. They left him there, shouting after them. Threats and pleas blending together. In the elevator back to ground level, Sera leaned against the wall, exhausted. You okay? Jae-Min asked. I will be. She looked at him. Thank you. For not making me face him alone. You don't have to face anything alone anymore. Not if you don't want to. The words hung in the air between them. What are we doing? Sera asked suddenly. What is this? What do you mean? This. Us. We're not just allies. Not anymore. But we're not. She trailed off. Not what? I don't know. That's the problem. She ran a hand through her hair. Your sister thinks you're falling for me. My instincts say I'm falling for you. But we barely know each other. This is just trauma bonding, right? Just two people clinging to each other in a crisis. Jae-Min moved closer. Close enough that she had to look up to meet his eyes. Is that what you think this is? He asked quietly. I don't know what to think. I'm not exactly experienced with healthy relationships. Neither am I. His hand came up, hesitant, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. But I know what I feel when you walk into a room. I know that the thought of you leaving keeps me awake at night. I know that seeing you safe matters more to me than it should. Jae-Min. I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm just. He exhaled slowly. I'm just telling you the truth. Because you deserve at least that much honesty. Sera's heart was racing. What if we try this and it doesn't work? What if your uncle is right and we're just setting ourselves up for disaster? Then we deal with disaster. Together. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But at least we'll know we tried. The elevator dinged. Doors opening. Sera stepped back, breaking the moment. I need time. To think. To figure out if I'm capable of this. Take all the time you need. But as they walked out into the facility's parking garage, both knew time was a luxury they might not have. Subscribe to the Korean Dawn if this moment hit you as hard as it hit them. Because stories like this don't follow easy paths. They follow true ones. And you'll want to see where this truth leads. That night, Seoul experienced a rare moment of quiet. No emergencies. No attacks. Just the city breathing in and out, pretending to be normal. Sera couldn't sleep. She wandered the penthouse, eventually finding herself in the kitchen. Making tea. Trying to process everything that had happened in the last week. 7 days ago, she'd been a weapon. Now she was, what? Free? Hardly. Still trapped by circumstances. Protected? Yes. But for how long? Falling in love? Maybe. Probably. Definitely. And that terrified her more than any assassination mission ever had. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. Can't sleep either? Jae-Min's voice was soft in the darkness. Apparently insomnia is contagious. He moved beside her, poured his own tea. They stood in comfortable silence, watching rain begin to fall against the windows. I keep thinking about what my uncle said, Sera admitted. That relationships built on trauma always fall apart. Do you believe that? I don't know. I've never had a relationship that wasn't built on violence and lies. I don't know what healthy looks like. Neither do I. Jae-Min turned to face her. My longest relationship was with Min Jun, and he betrayed me for money. I'm not exactly relationship expert material. Then we're both disasters. Maybe that's perfect. 2 disasters canceling each other out. She actually laughed. Small, surprised. That's not how disasters work. Maybe it's how we work. The rain picked up, drumming against glass. The city lights blurred, softened. I'm scared, Sera said quietly. I spent so many years being told I wasn't allowed to feel anything. Wasn't allowed to want anything beyond the next mission. And now you're standing here offering me, what? Possibility? Hope? I don't know how to process that. Then don't process it. Just feel it. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You felt it when you saved my life instead of taking it. You felt it when you protected my sister. You felt it in that elevator. He moved closer. You feel it now. She did. Felt it in the way her breath quickened. In the warmth spreading through her chest. In the way her body leaned toward his like gravity had shifted. Jae-Min, I. He kissed her. Gentle. Tentative. Like she was something precious that might break. For half a second, Sera froze. Years of training screaming that this was vulnerability. Weakness. Danger. Then she kissed him back. And nothing had ever felt more like strength. His hand cupped her face. Hers fisted in his shirt. The kiss deepened, grew more desperate, weeks of tension finally finding release. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Sera pressed her forehead to his. We're insane, she whispered. Probably. This is a terrible idea. Definitely. I'm still doing it. He smiled against her lips. Good. They kissed again, slower this time. Taking their time. Learning the shape of each other. When they finally pulled apart, Sera felt like she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. And she was okay with that. I don't know where this goes, she said. I don't know if I'm capable of being what you need. I don't need you to be anything but yourself. His thumb traced her jaw. The woman who chose differently. Who fought for her sister. Who's brave enough to face her demons. That woman is more than enough. You might be the only person who thinks so. Then I'm the only person who matters. They stood in the kitchen, rain falling, city sleeping, holding each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. Tomorrow would bring new threats. New complications. But tonight, they had this. And for now, that was enough. Morning brought reality crashing back. Jae-Min woke to his phone buzzing incessantly. Bad news. Always bad news. Sera stirred beside him. They'd fallen asleep on the couch in his study, wrapped around each other like teenagers. What? He answered his phone roughly. Sir, we have a problem. His head of operations sounded tense. 3 of our warehouses were hit last night. Simultaneously. Professional job. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Jae-Min sat up carefully, not wanting to wake Sera. How much? 30 million won in product. Plus structural damage. Plus 4 men in the hospital. Who did it? Unknown. But sir, they had inside information. Security codes. Patrol schedules. This was someone who knows our operations. Jae-Min's blood ran cold. I thought we cleaned house after Min-jun. So did we. He looked at Sera, still sleeping. For a moment, paranoia whispered ugly things. Then he crushed it. She'd saved his life. Saved his sister. She wasn't a threat. But someone was. I'm coming in, he said. Lockdown protocols. No one enters or exits without my explicit permission. He hung up, ran a hand over his face. Sera's eyes opened. Bad news? Someone hit us last night. Someone with inside knowledge. She was fully awake instantly. Min-jun gave us everyone. We secured them all. Apparently we missed someone. They dressed quickly, professional mode clicking back into place. But there was a new awareness between them now. Touches lingering a fraction too long. Eyes meeting with shared understanding. At headquarters, a nondescript building in Gangnam that housed Jae-Min's legitimate operations, chaos reigned. People shouting. Screens showing damage reports. His inner circle arguing about next steps. Jae-Min walked in and silence fell. Report, he ordered. For the next hour, they pieced together the attack. Coordinated. Precise. Someone had given the attackers everything they needed. Pull everyone's financial records again, Jae-Min said. Communications. Travel logs. Someone is still feeding information out. Find them. As his team scattered, Sera studied the attack pattern on the main screen. This feels familiar, she said. Familiar how? This is how my uncle's network operates. Hit hard, hit simultaneously, create chaos. She pointed at the map. But these warehouse locations, only someone in your organization would know which ones were most critical. So we're looking for someone in my inner circle who's connected to your uncle's people. Or someone your uncle already owned before Min-jun. The implications spiraled. If Dae-young had people embedded deeper than Min-jun, if he'd been planning this for longer than they thought. We need to talk to him again, Sera said. He'll just lie. Maybe. But he'll also gloat. Men like my uncle can't help bragging when they think they're winning. An hour later, they were back in Dae-young's cell. He smiled when they entered. Back so soon? Did you miss me? 3 warehouses, Jae-Min said without preamble. 30 million won. Inside information. Who did you have planted in my organization? I don't know what you're talking about. Your network is dismantled. Your accounts are frozen. You have nothing left to protect. Tell me who it is. Dae-young leaned back. Even if I knew, which I'm not saying I do, why would I tell you? What's in it for me? Leniency. Privilege. Maybe even a window in your cell. How generous. Dae-young's eyes gleamed. But you see, watching you scramble is far more entertaining than a window. Watching your empire crumble because you can't trust anyone around you? That's better than any comfort you could offer. Sera slammed her hands on the table. This isn't a game. Oh, but it is. And I'm still playing, even from here. He looked at Jae-Min. Did you really think arresting me would end this? I've spent 20 years building networks within networks. Relationships that go deeper than money. Loyalty that transcends circumstances. Everyone has a price. True. But not everyone's price is what you think it is. Dae-young's smile widened. Some people are loyal because they hate you more than they love money. Some people have been waiting years for a chance to watch you fall. And some people. He glanced at Sera. Some people will betray you simply because they were trained to. Sera's face went white. What are you saying? Jae-Min demanded. I'm saying that perhaps you should look closer to home. Perhaps the person feeding information isn't some distant operative. Perhaps she's been standing next to you all along. He's lying, Sera said immediately. I told you everything. I gave you everyone. Did you? Or did you give me just enough to seem cooperative while holding back the truly valuable pieces? Dae-Young turned to Jae-Min. How do you know she didn't orchestrate this entire thing? Walk into your life, pretend to save you, gain your trust, all while feeding information back to my network? Because I would have already killed you if that was the plan, Jae-Min said coldly. Would you? Or are you already so blinded by whatever's developing between you that you can't see the obvious threat? The words landed like physical blows. Jae-Min looked at Sera. Saw the fear in her eyes. The worry that he might believe it. We're done here, he said, standing. Think about it, Kang. Dae-Young called after them. Ask yourself why she really saved you. Ask yourself what she's really after. And when you finally see the truth, remember, I tried to warn you. In the elevator, Sera was shaking. I'm not. I know. He's trying to turn you against me. To make you doubt. I said I know. Jae-Min pulled her close. I don't believe him. I believe you. But what if he's right? What if there's something I don't remember? Some conditioning they built into me? Then we deal with it. Together. He kissed her forehead. But I don't think that's what this is. I think your uncle is desperate. Striking out however he can. But doubt had been planted. And as they rode back to headquarters, both knew that doubt was exactly what Dae-Young wanted. The question was whether they'd let it grow. They found her 3 days later. Kim So-young. Jae-Min's head of communications. With the organization for 6 years. Trusted. Competent. Completely invisible. Perfect cover for a sleeper agent. The evidence was damning. Hidden communications. Encrypted files. Coded messages that matched the attack patterns. When they brought her in, she didn't resist. Just smiled sadly. How long? Jae-Min asked, voice dangerously calm. Since the beginning. Before Min-jun. Before anyone else. So-young sat with her hands folded. I was the first. The foundation everything else was built on. Sera felt sick. My uncle placed you. Trained me. Positioned me. Told me to wait until the perfect moment. So-young looked at Jae-Min. You were always the primary target. Everything else, every other operation, was just preparation for taking you down. Why? Because you're different. Because you actually care about people. Because men like you are dangerous to men like Dae-Young. She leaned forward. You make the rest of us look bad by comparison. Can't have that. So you spent 6 years building trust just to destroy it? I spent 6 years doing my job. Nothing personal. You were always kind to me. Fair. Generous. But orders are orders. Sera stood. Where are the remaining operatives? The ones still active? So-young hesitated. We already have you, Jae-Min said quietly. Give us the others and I'll consider mercy. Mercy from you isn't worth much in prison. Mercy from me means you might see your daughter graduate high school. Otherwise. He let the threat hang. So-young's composure cracked. You threaten my family? No. But your employers will. The moment they realize you've been caught, your family becomes a liability. A loose end. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. This is my team outside your daughter's school. Right now. Protecting her. Making sure no one from Dae-Young's network gets close. Tears filled So-young's eyes. You're protecting her? Why? Because unlike your employers, I don't hurt children to prove a point. He set the phone down. Help me, and I'll make sure she stays safe. Fight me, and I can't guarantee what happens. It wasn't quite a threat. Wasn't quite mercy. It was exactly the leverage needed. So-young broke. Names. Locations. Protocols. Everything spilled out in a desperate rush. By evening, Jae-min's teams were moving on 7 more embedded agents. Some surrendered. Some ran. One tried to fight and ended up in the hospital. But by midnight, it was over. Dae-young's network in Seoul was finally, truly dismantled. In his cell, Dae-young watched the reports come in on a smuggled phone, one last gift from So-young before she was caught. Then the phone died. And he understood. He'd lost. Truly lost. Everything he'd built. Everyone he'd placed. Years of planning and preparation. Gone. Because his niece had chosen a man over her training. Because that man had been smarter, faster, better. Because in the end, people like Jae-Min Kang always won, not through cruelty, but through actually caring about the people around them. It was infuriating. It was also undeniable. Dae-young slumped in his chair and, for the first time in 20 years, admitted defeat. In the penthouse, Sera and Jae-min watched the sun rise over Seoul. It's over, she said, not quite believing it. Your uncle's network in Korea is finished. There might be remnants in other countries, but they'll scatter now. Go to ground. Become someone else's problem. And your empire? Damaged but stable. We'll rebuild. He turned to face her. Question is, what do you do now? The question she'd been avoiding. I don't know, she admitted. For years, I've been running from my uncle. From my past. From myself. Now that's over and I don't know who I am without something to run from. Maybe that's the point. Maybe now you get to find out. What if I don't like who I find? Then you keep looking until you do. He took her hand. But you don't have to do it alone. Not if you don't want to. You're asking me to stay. I'm offering you a choice. The first real choice you've had in a long time. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Stay. Build something with me. Or go. Find your quiet life somewhere far from all this. Either way, I won't stop you. Sera looked at him. Really looked. This man who'd protected her. Trusted her. Seen her at her worst and still believed she could be better. This man who'd kissed her like she was precious. This man who was offering her freedom and asking for nothing in return. What if I stay and we don't work? She asked. What if we're too broken? Then we'll be broken together. Seems better than being broken alone. She laughed, watery and surprised. That's not romantic. No. But it's honest. He pulled her close. I can't promise you easy. Can't promise you safe. But I can promise you won't face anything alone. Not anymore. Sera closed her eyes, leaning into him. For years, she'd been told what to do. Where to go. Who to kill. Now she had a choice. And surprisingly, the choice was easy. I'll stay, she whispered. At least for a while. See what we can build. That's all I'm asking. They stood together as Seoul woke up, watching the city come alive with morning commuters and delivery trucks and all the ordinary chaos of human existence. Somewhere below, Min-ji was probably sleeping peacefully on Jeju Island. Somewhere in the city, Ji-won was opening her shipping company for another day of business. Somewhere in a cell, Dae-young was realizing his empire was dust. And here, in the penthouse, two broken people were choosing to be broken together. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. But it was real. And real was more than either of them had ever dared hope for. Seoul in autumn was beautiful. Golden leaves. Cool air. The city shedding summer's heat like an old skin. Sera stood in the training room Jae-Min had built for her, a space where she could work out her demons without hurting anyone. She'd been there for an hour when he found her. Ji-won called, he said from the doorway. Wants to know if we're coming to dinner Sunday. We? She specifically said you and your girlfriend. Her words, not mine. Sera paused mid-punch. Is that what I am? Your girlfriend? I don't know. What do you want to be? She considered it. 3 months of living together. Working together. Building something that looked increasingly like a life. I want to be whatever makes you happy, she said finally. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. She moved closer. For years, making someone happy meant I was doing my job correctly. Meant I was a good weapon. But with you, I want to make you happy because it makes me happy. Because your happiness matters to me. That's called caring about someone. Is it? I'm still learning the difference between caring and codependence. He pulled her close, not caring that she was sweaty from her workout. You're doing fine. Am I? Because some days I wake up and panic that this is all temporary. That you'll wake up and realize I'm too damaged. That I'll never be normal. Good thing I don't want normal. He kissed her forehead. I want you. Complicated, brilliant, dangerous you. They stood together, his arms around her, her head on his chest. Dinner Sunday sounds nice, she said finally. Yeah. Tell your sister we'll be there. Life had developed a rhythm. Mornings, Sera helped Jae-Min manage his operations, the legitimate ones. She had a gift for logistics, for seeing patterns others missed. Afternoons, she trained. Physical therapy for the damaged years of violence had done. Mental therapy for the damaged years of manipulation had done. Evenings, they were just two people. Cooking dinner. Watching movies. Having the kind of boring, normal moments she'd never thought she'd want. And slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, the nightmares faded. The constant vigilance eased. The fear that she'd never be more than a weapon, that fear became whisper instead of a scream. Min-ji visited from Jeju Island once a month. She was finishing her degree remotely, safe and happy, building a life that had nothing to do with violence. You look good, she told Sera during one visit. Lighter. I'm trying. It shows. Min-ji hugged her. I'm proud of you, Uni. You fought for this. For us. For yourself. Those words meant more than any victory ever had. Dae-young remained in custody, awaiting trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Multiple murders. Organized crime. Conspiracy. He'd spend the rest of his life in prison. Sera visited him once more, 2 months after his capture. He looked older. Thinner. Defeated in a way she'd never seen. You came back, he said, surprised. I came to tell you something. She sat across from him. I forgive you. His eyes widened. Not for you, she continued. For me. Because carrying that hate was poisoning everything I tried to build. So I'm letting it go. I'm forgiving you for killing my parents. For turning me into a weapon. For all of it. I don't want your forgiveness. I know. That's why it's mine to give, not yours to accept. She stood. Goodbye, Uncle. I hope you find peace somehow. She left him there, speechless, and felt lighter than she had in years. Forgiveness hadn't erased the past. But it had freed her from being chained to it. Sunday dinner at Ji-won's apartment was loud and warm and chaotic. She'd invited friends. Colleagues. People who didn't know anything about the darker parts of Jae-Min's life. Normal people living normal lives. Sera felt out of place at first. Too aware of her past. Too conscious of the blood on her hands. But Ji-won pulled her into the kitchen, handed her a knife and vegetables to chop. "Relax," she said. "You're allowed to be here. Allowed to be happy. I'm trying. I know. And you're doing great." Ji-won bumped her shoulder. "My brother hasn't smiled this much in years. That's because of you." Sera glanced through the doorway to where Jae-min stood, talking with a group of people, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "He's good at this," she said. "The normal life thing. He's good at it because you make him want it." Ji-won started chopping onions. "Before you, he was just going through the motions. Building an empire because that's what he knew how to do. But he wasn't living. Not really. And now? Now he's building a life. There's a difference." After dinner, they stood on Ji-won's balcony, watching the city. "Thank you," Jae-min said suddenly. "For what?" "For staying. For trying. For being brave enough to let me in." Sera leaned against him. "Thank you for making it worth staying." They were quiet for a moment, comfortable in their silence. "I've been thinking," Sera said, "about what comes next. Oh? I want to do something meaningful. Something that helps people like me. People who've been turned into weapons and don't know how to be anything else." Jae-min turned to face her. "What did you have in mind?" "A foundation. Resources for people trying to leave dangerous organizations. Therapy. Job training. Safe houses. A way out that doesn't end with them dead or back where they started." "That's ambitious." "I know. But I have resources now. Connections. Knowledge." She met his eyes. "And I have you. If you'll help me. Always." He kissed her softly. "We'll build it together." The foundation launched 6 months later. Small at first. Just a few people. A small office. Limited resources. But word spread. People started coming. People who'd been trapped in the same systems that had trapped Sera. She helped them. Listened to them. Showed them that escape was possible. That redemption was possible. That they could be more than what they'd been made to be. It wasn't easy work. Some people couldn't be saved. Some weren't ready. Some were too broken. But some made it. Built new lives. Became new people. And every success felt like vindication. Every person who walked free felt like proof that her choice had mattered. A year after the assassination attempt, Sera and Jae-min stood in the penthouse where it all began. The windows had been replaced. The bullet holes patched. The blood cleaned away. But the memory remained. "You know what's funny?" Sera said. "A year ago, I walked in here planning to kill you. And now I can't imagine my life without you." She turned to face him. "You changed everything. We changed each other. Maybe." She smiled. "Is that a bad thing?" "No." He pulled her close. "It's the best thing that ever happened to me." They kissed, deep and slow and full of promise. Outside, Seoul glittered. The city that had witnessed their beginning. The city that would witness whatever came next. Because this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A chance to build something real. Something lasting. Something that mattered. Two broken people choosing to be whole together. Two weapons choosing to become human again. Two survivors choosing love over fear. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. But it was theirs. And that was everything. 2 years later. The foundation had grown. 3 offices now. Seoul, Tokyo, Hong Kong. Helping hundreds of people escape violent organizations. Sera ran it with the same precision she'd once used for assassination. But now the target was freedom instead of death. Jae-min had shifted his operations. Gone legitimate where he could. Cleaned up what he couldn't. Built something sustainable. Something he wouldn't be ashamed to leave behind. They'd bought a house outside Seoul. Small by his standards. Private. With a garden where Sera grew vegetables and flowers, learning to nurture life instead of taking it. Min-ji had graduated. Started her own art gallery. Visited every month with stories about normal life that made Sera's heart ache with joy. Ji-won had expanded her shipping company. Partnered with Jae-Min on legitimate ventures. Become one of Sera's biggest supporters. And Dae-young. Dae-young had died in prison 6 months ago. Heart attack. Quick. Almost merciful. Sera had cried at the news. Not for who he was, but for who he could have been. For the uncle who'd been lost when he chose power over family. She'd laid flowers on her parents' grave that day and told them she was finally free. Finally at peace. Finally herself. On their second anniversary, measured from the night of the assassination attempt, Jae-Min took Sera to the roof of his tower. The same view. The same city. But everything was different. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. Sera's heart jumped. Jae-Min. It's not what you think. Not yet. He opened it. Inside was a key. Remember that house you fell in love with? The one by the coast? The one that's way too expensive and completely impractical? I bought it. She stared at him. You what? I bought it. For us. 4 weekends. For when the city gets too loud. For when you need space to breathe. He pressed the key into her hand. I want to build a life with you, Sera. Not just survive. Not just exist. Really live. Tears filled her eyes. I want that too. Then marry me. The words hung in the air. What? Marry me. Not because we have to. Not because it makes strategic sense. But because I love you. Because you make me better. Because I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice when you didn't pull that trigger. Sera was crying now. Full tears streaming down her face. I'm broken, she whispered. Still healing. Still learning how to be human. So am I. We'll figure it out together. I have nightmares. I'll hold you through them. I might never be fully free of my past. Neither will I. But we can build a future anyway. She looked at him, this man who'd seen her at her absolute worst and still chose to love her. This man who'd given her freedom and safety and hope. This man who'd become her home. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. He kissed her as Seoul sparkled below them, the city that had witnessed their transformation from enemies to lovers, from broken to healing, from surviving to living. And somewhere in the darkness, and all the places they'd been and all the pain they'd survived, something whispered. You made it. You're free. You're home. The wedding was small. Private. Just the people who mattered. Ji-won stood as Jae-Min's best woman. Min-ji stood as Sera's maid of honor. They exchanged vows on the coast, at the house Jae-Min had bought, with the ocean as their witness. Sera wore white, not because tradition demanded it, but because she'd earned the right to wear something pure. Because she'd fought for this. Bled for this. Survived for this. When Jae-Min lifted her veil, his hands were shaking. I was so sure I'd die alone, he whispered. Me too, she whispered back. Thank you for proving us both wrong. They kissed as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and purple. And for the first time in either of their lives, the future looked bright. Years later, when people asked Sera Kang how she'd escaped her past, she'd smile and say, I met someone who saw me as more than a weapon. Who believed I could be more than what I was made to be. And I decided to believe him. And when they asked Jae-Min Kang how he'd survived an assassination attempt that should have killed him, he'd smile and say, I was saved by the woman sent to kill me. And then I spent the rest of my life making sure she never regretted that choice. Their story became legend in certain circles, whispered in safe houses, shared among those trying to escape. Proof that redemption was possible, that love could bloom in the darkest places, that even people trained to kill could learn to live instead. 5 years after that night in the penthouse, Sera sat in her foundation office, reviewing applications from people seeking help. A young woman, 23, trained since childhood, trying to escape. The story was familiar. Too familiar. Sera picked up the phone. Send her to the Seoul office. I'll meet with her personally. An hour later, the young woman sat across from Sera, hands shaking, fear in her eyes. I don't know if I can do this, she said. They've owned me for so long. I don't know who I am without them. Sera leaned forward. Can I tell you a story? The woman nodded. 5 years ago, I was sent to kill a man. A powerful man. A dangerous man. I'd killed before. Many times. It was all I knew how to do. The woman listened, recognition dawning. But something changed that night. I looked at him and I saw possibility. A different way. A different life. So I made a choice. I saved him instead of killing him. What happened? Everything changed. It was hard. Terrifying. I didn't think I'd survive. But I did. And now. Sera gestured around the office. Now I help people like you. People like me. People who want to be more than weapons. You really escaped? I did. And you can too. Sera reached across, took the woman's shaking hands. It won't be easy. You'll have nightmares. Doubts. Days when you think you made a mistake. But you'll also have hope. Freedom. A chance to find out who you really are. Tears streamed down the young woman's face. I'm scared. I know. I was too. I still am sometimes. Sera squeezed her hands gently. But being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes they're the same thing. The woman stayed. Started the program. Began the long, difficult journey from weapon to person. And Sera watched, remembering her own journey, grateful for the man who'd believed she could make it. That evening, she came home to find Jae-Min in the garden, planting tomatoes with the same careful precision he once applied to criminal operations. How was your day? He asked, not looking up. I met someone like me. Someone trying to escape. Did you help her? I'm trying to. She knelt beside him, hands in the soil. It made me think about how far we've come. How different life is now. Better different or worse different? Better. Definitely better. She looked at him. Do you ever regret it? Taking me in? Risking everything? He finally looked up, dirt on his hands, smile on his face. Not even once. Even when I have nightmares? Even when I'm difficult? Even when? He kissed her, cutting off the spiraling worry. Even then, he said firmly. Especially then. Because those are the moments when I get to show you that you're loved. Not despite your past, but including it. All of it. Sera felt tears prick her eyes. Even after years, his words could still undo her. I love you, she said simply. I love you too. He pulled her close, both of them kneeling in the garden, dirt under their nails, sun warm on their backs. Always. They stayed there as evening fell, two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and chosen to build light together. Two people who'd survived when they shouldn't have. Two people who'd loved when they couldn't. Two people who'd become more than the sum of their scars. And somewhere in Seoul, in the penthouse where it all began, the windows reflected city lights and infinite possibilities. Because some stories don't end with revenge. Some don't end with tragedy. Some end with two broken people discovering they fit together perfectly. Some end with redemption earned through choice and courage. Some end with love, complicated, messy, beautiful love, winning against all odds. This was one of those stories. If you made it to the end of this journey, if you felt every moment of Sera and Jae-Min's transformation, subscribe to the Korean Dawn. Because stories like this, stories about broken people finding wholeness, about weapons becoming human, about love blooming in impossible places, these are the stories that change us. And you'll want to be here for what comes next. Sera Shin walked into a penthouse to kill a man. She walked out having saved him. And in that choice, in that single moment of defiance against everything she'd been trained to be, she saved herself too. Because redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing differently in the present. It's about looking at the person you were and deciding to become someone new. It's about meeting someone who sees your scars and calls them beautiful anyway. 5 men tried to kill a billionaire mafia boss that night. They didn't expect her. They didn't expect her to choose love over duty. They didn't expect her to be brave enough to want more than survival. They didn't expect her to be human. But she was. She always had been. She just needed someone to remind her. And he did. Every single day. For the rest of their lives. Thank you for spending these hours with Sera and Jae-Min. Their story is one of transformation, of choosing courage over comfort, of finding love in the least likely places. If their journey resonated with you, if you found yourself rooting for them, if you believe broken people deserve happy endings, share this story. Tell someone. Because stories like this remind us that we're all capable of change. We're all capable of choosing differently. We're all capable of love, no matter how far we've fallen. Until the next story, stay brave. Stay curious. Stay human. The Korean Dawn.